Well, I finished the Bark Lake trip about a week and a half ago, and now on Donald Lake. But it's a rainy day, so this is a good chance to recap my findings from the Bark Lake trip. So I'll open the Bark Lake East topo map on the Avenza Maps app. It's the access point down there. Go up into Lac aux Sables. It's a campsite there. There are some other ones. What I mostly want to talk about are just the portages. So this one, you want to go on the south side of the river. That one's pretty straightforward. You'll see it. You'll see the trail as you're coming upstream. When you get to Little Trout Lake, the campsite, by the way, is across from that portage. It's not up here as it looks like on Kevin Callan's map. It's right across from the portage. And then same thing when you get to the portage here into Big Trout. The campsite isn't up on the lake. It's right. It's actually on the portage, on the east side. There are portages on the east and the west side, which is weird. But anyway, there's a campsite on the east portage. They're both about the same distance and difficulty. However, the east side here follows the river, and you get to watch the rapids as you portage alongside them, so I'd recommend that one. Campsite, that's the one I stayed on Big Trout. There's the Great Jumping Rock. There's another one there apparently. There's a beach over there. And as you come up, so here through the River aux Sables, there are a bunch of portages. I don't even know how many, but probably 5 or more that you could take. I only had to take 2 to get into Little Long Lake here, and that was in mid to late August 2017. I don't know what conditions are otherwise at other times. In the spring, I'm sure it's a much different route, but this is what I experienced in August. So here, I could make it all the way up to that first marker there without portaging. On the way in, I did portage, and that was a waste because you can easily wade up to that point if water levels permit. And the wading wasn't bad either. It was nice gravelly sand. It wasn't mucky, and I didn't get any leeches. So I would definitely recommend doing that. So at that green marker, the river turns into a little rapid if you go right when you're coming upstream. And on the left side, there's like a little shallow marsh and kind of like a bog that you can walk over. And that's where one necessary portage begins, and that goes on the south side of the river and brings you up to this pond, where you'll find a bit of a log jam and some rapids after the log jam. So that's a necessary portage. Then you get to the end of this pond. There's a marked portage on the north side of it, which is absolutely pointless. Just paddle right through it to the portage there and take the short, easy portage into Long Lake. Through Long Lake, another straightforward portage into Boumage. And then another portage begins here, takes you to this pond. All pretty straightforward there. And then you have the long one here, which is about 1,200 meters. There's some mucky sections, but it's decent overall. Whoops. And then one other note, there are 2 portage entrances from Bark Lake to this portage. And, oh man, what am I doing here? The south one is just north of the stream. And then there's another one just north of that. I recommend the south one. It was just easier, flatter, and more clear. The north one was a little bit overgrown, but I think the purpose of the north one is during wet conditions. It's drier because it goes up in elevation. Then I paddled up Bark Lake. There's a beach there. You go through the Narrows. And then this takes you into a larger section of Bark Lake. That's where I camped on that little island there. and then I'll go to Bark Lake West. Unfortunately, the topo map splits there. There's a campsite there, Gray Owl's cabin there, and a beach there. Anyway, that's about it. Just those portages that go in between Bark Lake and Big Trout are a bit confusing, so if you follow my recommendations, it should be fine.